that up. Welcome into Between the Pylons. I'm John Camacho.
And this is Jacob Waters.
And we have an awesome show for you guys today. AFC East. We get to talk about my Dolphins and his Bills.
My Josh Allen.
My Josh Allen. Man, it sucks that Josh Allen's so good. He was my number one quarterback that year. I wanted the Dolphins to trade up and get him. And then my division rivals go get him. At least we don't have another quarterback that I love that got drafted by a division rival this year. Anyway, we're going to talk about all of it.
Well, it's not like you've had to deal with a guy who got drafted and's been running y'all's division for 20-something years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's sad. Like, I look at the Dolphins, I would argue we probably have the worst quarterback right now.
Well, yeah.
I'll just
honestly,
right off the bat.
Y'all are due. Y'all need the franchise guy more.
Well, I mean, are we really due? Like, we have.
No, honestly, it's the Jets' turn.
The Jets and Bills have had it worse historically. Like, the Dolphins, like, whatever, past my lifetime, sure, I feel like I'm due. But, like, we did have 72 undefeated. We did have Dan Marino. And we didn't get a dub, but we were great for years.
I would argue Buffalo's had theirs, though, with Jim Kelly. Losing 4, yes, that
losing
sucks.
4 hurts more than losing 1.
The Jets, other than Broadway Joe, and I will argue it till I'm blue in the face. I should not say this at the beginning of a pod because it might piss off an audience. Joe Namath is not a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh, come on.
Have you seen it statistically?
Who gives a shit about you got to talk about the era, too. That matters.
The era and legacy-wise, I understand what Broadway Joe did.
Yeah, he's a legend. And at that time, legends go in the league.
His personality and how he carried himself. I get that. Statistically, I don't know if you've looked at it recently. It's a lot worse than what you would think.
All right, we're starting the pod this way. All right, we haven't got. All right,
look up Joe Namath Hall of Fame stats, and let's just see what it looks like, because it's not even that hot of a topic. Honestly, there's a lot of people out there. No,
not a hot topic at all.
There's people who agree with me on it. Seriously.
I thought you were talking about for this pod right now that we're starting.
With us? No, yeah. I'm sure there's Jets fans who would be very upset with me.
All-time 27,000 yards, 173 touchdowns, 220 interceptions. I get it, but that is a different NFL. That is a different NFL where you were you didn't have all the cute stuff that you have in today's NFL. You're throwing it up. Like, you look at like a Phil Simms is a guy who doesn't have awesome stats but was Super Bowl MVP, as one of the greatest Super Bowl performances ever. I think he's a guy who you could consider, along with his broadcasting career, should probably be a Hall of Famer. He never will be, because you'll compare his stats to stats of today, and it's just not even realistic. I just think that's fair to point.
I know, no, for sure. It totally is. It's just when you look at Joe Namath's stats, and
yeah, I get it. Yeah,
you have to. That's the argument. You have to tell yourself it was a different league. You can't go into it like that, because his best season statistically was in '67, where he threw for 4K. 26 touchdowns and 28 interceptions. His highest passer rating ever was a 73.8.
But 40K is 4,000's a lot of yards.
And 67,
that's
because they're still looking around like, you can throw it.
Holy shit, that's a lot of yards.
That's a lot.
Then.
That's really impressive.
Was that the year they won?
Well, that's in 14 games. That was.
Yeah, that might have. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that's crazy. Still, I didn't realize he still threw more interceptions than touchdowns that year. He did it a lot. He had 19, 20, and 72.
Underwhelming. I would argue Joe Namath and Troy Aikman are the two Hall of Fame careers out there.
Well, I thought you're saying Troy Aikman, or I thought you were always against the Steelers, dude.
No, Terry Bradshaw deserves it. Terry Bradshaw, I would say.
I always thought he deserved it, too. But I feel like
he deserves it based on his accolades and awards that he got. But when it comes to overall quarterback ability, I don't like old heads putting him on their Mount Rushmore of top 5 quarterbacks.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Terry Bradshaw's not a top 5 quarterback.
All right, let's get back into it, guys. We have a great show for you today. We are going to be talking about every single division in the AFC East. We're going to be talking about the over-unders. We'll give you the BovadaSportsbook.com odds, and talk about what we think. Will we go under, over, wherever it is there. We're going to be talking about free agency, the draft, all of it, setting you up for the NFL season. Every team in the AFC East. Let's go ahead and get started. You want to start with the Buffalo Bills here? Your team. I'll give you a minute. The Buffalo Bills are I'll let you start it off. I'll get everything set up here.
No, I've always been high on Buffalo. I've always been high on Josh Allen. I've had to eat a lot of crow defending Josh Allen at times, and I'm glad to see the type of step up that he had last year. And I know you have some stats that go into it a little bit more. He had a step that I wouldn't. You can't even call it a step. It was historic. It was historic to think of the breakthrough that Josh Allen had from going to average, below average at times, to true elite. Now I think he's the top paid quarterback in the NFL. I think whenever
outside of Mahomes,
he's right there. So
nobody's going to be Mahomes for a couple
Josh
years.
Allen got re-upped, as he should, though. And I would say overall for the Bills and looking forward, it's did they address the areas of their weakness that can help them get to the Super Bowl? Because I know what Josh Allen is. I know what Stephon Diggs is capable of. I know that they have a very, very above average adept secondary and some solid pieces up there. But can they effectively run the ball late in games?
Yeah.
That's how you close out these games. That's how you take the ball out of the gunslinger's hands at times, and he doesn't have to play the hero ball in order to win it. So a good run game can benefit Josh Allen in ways that I think we haven't seen yet. Josh Allen doesn't have to do that. Can the defensive line get an effective pass rush? They have to be able to do that. They did not have a guy record over 6 sacks last year. I know that for sure. I think it's even lower than that off the top of my head. I thought it was like 3 or 4, but I'll say 6 because I know I'm right on that one. They have to be able to get pressure on the quarterback, got to get off the field, and they got to get a run game. They got to be able to eat some clock.
Yeah, so let's talk Josh Allen for a second. You mentioned I have a lot of stats. I'm not going to bore you with just literally like every stat that shows his jump from last year to this year. I'll give you one just to sum it all up. Josh Allen went from 30.9% adjusted completion percentage on 20-plus yard throws in 2019 all the way up to 47.2% last year. That is the biggest jump that we've seen since this stat has been taken or been recorded. And when I say every single statistical way that you can judge a quarterback, he jumped up leaps and bounds. Every single one. There is not there. It was ridiculous. It was historic. It was amazing, and it's something that people that really watch the games. Us, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but like it's something that like we called and literally I remember because I'm a stats guy too, especially this time of year. I'm always researching and stuff like that. I remember this time of year when I started to go, hey, I've read all the stats on Josh Allen. I'm a little scared now, and it was that time of the year where it's like, oh, I forgot what he looked like. I forgot oh, he's so close. You could tell when you watch him on the field, and I feel like you nailed it. I feel like I nailed it too, but you didn't lose faith like I did, so I'm going to give you the whole dub. And yeah, it's nice to know we're not completely idiots when we talk about certain things.
It was hard for a while there though to defend Josh Allen for. I mean, it was bad. There were people saying that he was already one more year, time to move on, and in that year, that's what I'm saying. He didn't just solidify. Oh, okay, he can play in the NFL. He is becoming the NFL now. He is, I would say, one season away from being this cemented top 5 quarterback now. Yeah,
I think already he is. He was in my rankings.
For me, top to bottom, he's top 5 right now.
I believe he was in my rankings. Yeah.
To cement himself.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I think everyone it really was amazing. It just was, and it's awesome. And hopefully we have a quarterback somewhere in the NFL do have the exact same type of thing where we go from not really thinking about him as anything more than anything, and to now we think about Josh Allen as second highest paid quarterback. All of these things, but let's move on. You mentioned the defensive line. I think that's a really good segue into the draft, which is not usually the route we go with these videos as far as order, but that's okay. Their first 2-round picks, they got younger at defensive line, right? Gregory Rousseau, first round, 30th pick out of Miami, and then Carlos Bashroom Jr. out of Wake Forest. Listen, I'll be honest, if you watch my draft coverage, I'm obviously a big draft guy. Wasn't the biggest Gregory Rousseau fan. This was exactly where I thought he would go, though.
Yes.
This was the range.
This is where he needed to go, I thought.
Yeah, I thought he was late first, and really, usually you say late first, early second. I didn't want him to go early second. I thought early second was going to be a bad team that was going to misuse him. I wanted him to go late first to a team like the Bills that can groom him to play the type of defensive end that he needs to be. He's long, lengthy, not quite as twitchy, explosive as some of the top end talent that you see coming at D ends out of college. Not like the traditional defensive end that gets a lot of praise. But this is the dude. I'm very excited for him. And then Carlos Bashroom Jr. to boot, a guy I really liked coming out, and I think again went right in his range.
All of those guys. Basham, I think, going in round 2 right there is a big pickup. I think that's a guy who can be in a rotational defense early on and often. Rousseau, you're hoping that he can really start to take the number 1 reps and go. And when it comes to the preseason, I saw Rousseau's reps, And they
Looks
faced
good.
the Lions.
He
took on
what,
Panay.
a sack and a half, I think. Yeah.
He took Panay on one-on-one and got that sack,
won
too.
that. Yeah, he won that rep, too.
You know, and we know how highly touted Panay was as a guy. So if Rousseau can just get going, get things going, it's a defensive line where they have tried to address it early and often a lot. We've seen that with Ed Oliver. We have yet to see Ed Oliver really take the step that he was supposed to on that. And I know it's hard with interior defensive linemen to really do that and be that disruptive, but Ed Oliver was supposed to be that.
Yeah, no, he absolutely was,
that's
and
what he was.
And you know the expectation is he'll develop. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. It does feel like they've invested heavily in the defensive line in the draft for multiple years now, and we've had some misses, and you just hope that the future looks bright for these guys. You never really know stuff like that.
That's why I mentioned their weaknesses having to get better, because we know the Bills are going to be a good team.
Yeah.
We know that they're atop the AFC and one of those competitors. But in order to dethrone the Chiefs, in order to get past maybe the Browns in one of those late playoff games or the Ravens, any of those guys, they're going to have to address their weaknesses and get better in those areas. Because if not, there's a formula on how to beat you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, and I want to apologize if that my dog barking is being picked up in the audio. That's nothing I can do about that right now.
It's okay.
I think the trash man's here, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, I 1000% agree. Working back to the weaknesses, I think there's really two weaknesses on this football team. We talked about defensive line. Running game's the other one. You look at the running backs for the Bills, they only average 3.9 yards per carry with a 42% success rate on those runs, and that's specifically just the running backs. That takes away the Josh Allen factor. Josh Allen makes their running stats as a whole, as a football team, look a lot better. But the running backs did struggle. They were not super impressive. Zach Moss and Singletary both. I mean, really, it felt like Zach Moss was maybe the better runner, but I think it was close either way, and there were certainly some issues there. What's your opinion there?
I mean, that was the big problem, is that I don't think that they could identify a hot hand and really feed the hot hand, because none of them got going.
Yeah.
It was only running the ball just to, I think, check the box and say, we at least tried to commit to the run game to balance our passing attack.
And I mean, just to bounce off of that, I mean, you look at like specific games, like the Seahawks game, they didn't run the ball. They literally said, okay, we're not going to run the ball. Your defense is so bad at stopping the pass, we're just going to throw it. I think they ran the ball like 4 times that game. It was like something ridiculous, whatever it was.
They didn't have to.
And they did do a really good job of throwing the ball on first down a lot more, which is, it's really good when you don't have a good run game not to waste it down by getting 2 yards on first down, put yourself in second and 8.
Yeah.
Exactly. So sorry, I'll let you keep going, but I thought that was interesting.
Going forward, I guess from what I'm hearing, the buzz around Bill's training camp and the fantasy news and all the people trying to find the little hot takey thing is that it's Zach Moss season. I've heard a lot.
See, I've seen I've
heard Zach Moss season.
Okay, so we're different on that. My fear is the hamstring injury.
Yeah.
The hamstring injury is what scares me with Zach Moss. He's had some injuries there, and you never know how serious that is. I think Singletary would be my bet if I had to take one. So let me ask you this.
So I'm not going to touch either.
Let me ask you this. If there was a Bovada odds thing where you could take one or the other to get more yards on the season, who would you take?
Who, based off of my past and what I do, would be Devin Singletary, because I believe in Devin Singletary, the runner. I like his quickness. I like his athleticism. I wasn't really drawn to Zach Moss coming out of college as much as I was like a Devin Singletary type build for that offense and that scheme as a whole.
Yeah.
But looking at the stuff that I've heard, and I just think that they're trying to transition. Listen, Devin Singletary, they didn't invest a lot in the draft. What was he, a third-round pick?
Yeah, but Zach Moss is about the same.
Exactly.
He's the third,
Zach
fourth
Moss
round pick.
is the 1 year younger. You go another 2 seasons or so, is Devin Singletary going to be on that roster?
Probably not.
At this current rate, no. So I think that they're really going to try to feed Zach Moss and see what they have in him and see what I think Zach Moss takes the first snap, the first handoff of the year.
Really? Okay.
Zach
See,
Moss.
I wouldn't bet on that one way or the other. I don't know what to expect there. I think it's going to be a hot hand thing, and I'm like you. I'm going to take the guy that I believe is more talented based on my pre-draft assessment. But I will say, like I mentioned it when I kind of brought up the running backs, Zach Moss looked a little better to me last year, and I don't know if I don't know what to attribute that, but it was close. Yeah, and that is the big thing. That that is the huge thing, to be honest with you, is that Zach Moss gets the goal line work and Singletary doesn't. So from a fantasy standpoint, yeah, Zach Moss might be the better bet just because you're getting some type of
at least if there's a touchdown upside.
Yeah, exactly, some type of touchdown upside there. Let's take a step back and go a little bit broad because I want to talk about how good this offense really was for a minute, right? Because we talk about the running game. Hey, if you can run the ball, that's great. It's awesome. It's good to be able to run the ball. It's really important to be able to pass the ball. That's what they did so efficiently, so well. Here's a couple of stats that shows that they only punted the ball 42 times all year. That was the second fewest all time in a 16-game season. The only team to do it, I think, was the 2012 Patriots, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I didn't write it down. I think it was the 2012 Patriots. What I do know is that they gained 20 or more first downs in every game of the season, and they are definitely the only team to do that. The only other team to ever do that was the 2012 Patriots. That's ridiculous. Those are ridiculous stats, just showing your offensive efficiency, right? I mean, just like that. That's important, and that's really, really impressive, and that's something that I would also assume probably drops back to the mean, right?
Yeah,
like the 2013 Pats didn't do the same thing.
Because when you set a bar that high, you're
not going to hit that again. So I would expect a little bit of regression from both Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. Those would be the two guys fantasy wise that I would look at and be like, okay, they're not going to do what they did last year. They're still going to be great, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're awesome and are great fantasy assets. Maybe take a step back from the expectations that they put up for this year. I will say, just back to what we were talking about with the Bills and gambling. If you're on Bovada and you're asking them to cover the spread, over the past 4 years, a Sean McDermott led team has covered the spread 60% of the time. Last year was they covered the spread 57.6% of the time, which is really good.
That's making you money.
Exactly, that is making you money. You bet on them to cover the spread all year. You're going to win money at the end of the year. So that's a pretty cool stat, I thought. That's all.
How far do you see this team getting at the end of the day? Like big picture.
Yeah, I don't see them getting past the Chiefs. I mentioned it at some point in the offseason.
They can be there again though. Like they can.
Yeah, I think
it could be. That's what I'm saying. Like bigger picture. How wide is the window? Is this going to be the way that we view Mahomes and the Chiefs? Is with Josh Allen and the Bills? Is Allen good enough to always keep the Bills competitive as Mahomes? Yes. I know it's not in the same realm as Mahomes because he is far and above.
Yeah, I would say if you're talking about stratospheres, Mahomes is in one and Josh Allen's is the one right under it. I would feel
Steelers, or is he going to be Drew Brees to the Saints? Is he going to be Phillip Rivers to the chart? The constant year in year out.
And constant. You are competing, and if you're on the right team, I think Big Ben to the Steelers is the perfect example. Where I think to me it feels like this is a guy who gets probably 2 rings in his career, is just competitive every year, plays a team, and honestly I think Sean McDermott's going to be there for a long time. I think they have the right stuff in the front office and everywhere, and I do expect them to be competitive year in and year out. And this year specifically, I look at them as a team that I don't know. I would say I don't think they got marketably better. Like just looking at their roster as a whole, you're relying on some young guys on that defensive line to really put in work. You're relying on a young offensive line, and that should be noted. This last year was a fairly young offensive line overall to get better in run blocking and to help out your team a little bit. But they were great pass blockers, and that's really what they wanted to do. And Josh Allen was fairly if he was getting pressured, I would say more often than not it was because he was holding the ball on a little too long, waiting for a deep pass or something, and then he makes a play anyway, so it didn't matter. But yeah, I expect this team to be competing with some of the top. I look at the Browns as a team that should be up there. I look at the Ravens, obviously, and then it is the Bills, and then Chiefs are at the top of the mountain right now, obviously in the AFC specifically.
Of course, but that's how I just wanted to word it, though, is that I think the Bills have the answer, and that they are going to be relevant for a long time with Josh Allen at the helm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Let's we kind of already mentioned draft. I know, so we're good there. Let's go to their free agency real quick and just kind of talk about what they did in that, because there wasn't a lot of stuff, but there were a couple moves that I certainly think are worth mentioning, and that's why I say, we just recorded, just to peel back the curtain, we just recorded the NFC South, right? And we talked about the Buccaneers, and I mentioned, usually in the NFL, if you don't get better, you get worse, right? And I was talking about how they brought everybody back, so they technically didn't get better. And that was kind of a a silly thing to say, you know, with the Bills, obviously, but with the Bucks, but with the Bills, I do think it's fair because the Bills didn't win the Super Bowl last year. I don't think they got better. I really don't. You lose John Brown, you replace him with Emmanuel Sanders. You owe a shot because before this video, you were betting. We were saying how old Emmanuel Sanders is. He said what, 27, 28. Yeah. I said 31. He's 34.
By the way, I'm glad that you said it though, because it just clicked in my head who I was talking about.
Who were you talking about?
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. Oh yeah, Brandon Cooks is on. Okay,
also
and he's been on a lot
Saints,
of teams.
Also bounced. Yeah, so
bounced around from a lot of teams. I see how you got there.
Brandon Cooks.
That's what it was.
Because Brandon Cooks is 28.
He bet confidently too, so I got nervous when I was looking it up.
Because I knew that I had seen it. I knew that I had seen somewhere that this guy.
But I was like,
was that?
But I was sitting there thinking, I was like, well, he was with the Steelers. It seems like 10 years ago.
Emmanuel Sanders wasn't playing at 16.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no way he's not over 30. Yeah, he's 34. You're replacing with a John Brown. I don't know what we're getting. Like, there's a reason he was on 4 teams in 3 years, right? Like, traded from the Broncos to the 49ers.
Last year,
49ers to Steelers, and then now the Bills. Yeah, and last year I'll give him injuries, but like at his age, I'm expecting injuries. I am. I'm sorry. Like, that's how it goes. So I do think you have a hole there, a hole that I think can be filled. Gabriel Davis, tied for second among all rookies last year with 7 touchdowns, 17.1 yards per reception. Not bad. I like Gabriel Davis a lot too.
It's a sneaky
he's a
fantasy
dude.
Target
Yeah,
if you're in a deep league.
Yeah, he's a dude, and we are in one. I absolutely agree. He's a guy that I certainly have circled for
I like Gabe Davis.
Some value there. Yeah, I certainly agree with that. So wide receiver, I think there's questions if you don't believe in Gabriel Davis, because I don't believe in Emmanuel Sanders, and I think it's fair to say, if you've been paying attention to the NFL the past couple of years, it's fair to say you don't believe in Emmanuel Sanders at this point. Like, I hope, I don't mean to be disrespectful. He had a great career.
Cole Beasley is borderline, not elite, but he is a borderline, like...
He's a great slot. I think that's the best way to put it.
He's a really good wide receiver, but Josh Allen can make his game great too.
Exactly. Yeah, he elevated Beasley for sure, and Josh Allen can elevate whoever's there probably at this point.
That's why I think Josh Allen is good enough to overcome a wide receiver 3 issue if there may be.
But is it fair to say that just looking at this graphic with their additions, their lot, all this didn't really add anybody of market? There's not a big name really. Didn't lose anybody, but feels like they stayed the same. They brought back Milano and Andre Smith, so it feels like their front 7 in general is kind of old. I mean, I'm worried about that a little bit. A lot of guys over 30 on that front 7. Is it fair for me to say I do expect maybe a tick down from what we saw last year? And last year was awesome, and you can still be very competitive with the tick down from what they did last year.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say a tick down. A tick down is still very competitive for sure. I think Bovada has them at 12 wins. Mm-hmm. Is that right? So, I mean, at 12 wins, I'm going to take the over.
11 wins, actually.
I would take the over.
Yeah.
I think that they're due for that. I think last year, they got 13 in?
Yeah.
I put them right at 13 again.
Yeah,
I had them at 12, I guess.
Yeah, I had them at 13. So I guess as I'm talking about this, because I do have them being a great football team, but I'm putting out that there's a little bit of skepticism from a staleness standpoint. I guess from we've watched football long enough to know
staleness in the same kind of light though, that like I'm looking at this Buffalo Bills wide receiver room, and I know Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. I know it's hard to make that comparison. Trust me, Aaron Rodgers is one of the GOATs.
Hey, they both can do ridiculous things with the right arm.
I think that we don't punish Aaron Rodgers. We punish the Packers as a whole, but regardless of who they have in that wide receiver room, I still think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to get it done. I think I'm confident in Josh Allen.
You know what? If we talk about
I'm confident in Josh Allen doing it.
And it's fair because I did just put him as a top 5 quarterback, and if I'm doing that, I should have that same level of confidence.
If we're confident in doing that,
right.
I'm not going to punish, as I wouldn't punish Aaron Rodgers for having Valdez Scantling or Lazard or whoever the hell it is for his wide receiver 3.
Allison,
I'm not gonna punish Josh Allen.
It's still Stephon Diggs. It's still the Bills. It's still Josh Allen. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe I'm overthinking it. That's all I have on the Bills. You want to go anywhere else?
I'm good.
Make some bold predictions. Super Bowl winner, anything like that?
No, my Super Bowl is the Rams and Chiefs.
Okay,
that's my. But I do think
3 years in a row with the Chiefs. You don't think they have a step back?
No, I think
I don't think they do either. But I'm just curious.
Be there.
Yeah. Feels like it's inevitable, doesn't it? Let's move on to my Miami Dolphins. Give me your hot take. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. Feel like I'm a little bit lower on the Dolphins now than I was early off season.
Hot take on the Miami Dolphins.
You don't have to give me a hot take, but just give me
there is no hot take. I would just say how in my head and your head as well, how the Dolphins have slowly been trending down because at the end
without
of last
playing any
year,
games too. That's the funny part.
That's the worst part is that, and there haven't been a lot of narratives come out other than just, I think, the staleness in my head of what Tua might not be, and that's not fair. It's not
Certainly
fair to
not.
hold him up to the litmus test because it hasn't even been performed yet.
Yeah.
It hasn't. We had a small sample size, and at that, sure, we didn't
Yeah.
see the arm talent that we would wanted to. We didn't see the NFL mind going to quick reads right away. That's okay, though. We just got done talking about a guy in Josh Allen who it took 2 years to even start. Three, yeah. It was third on fourth years where we saw that big jump.
Yeah.
We shouldn't just throw a guy out. I think it hurts Tua more, though, that he had Burrow and Herbert in the class, and we saw Burrow's flash. We know Herbert's flash. It's hard to be held up to that standard, and
it was tough as a Dolphins fan because I remember when they started Tua, at the surprise start over Fitzmagic, who was doing well and felt like he had that team.
Yeah.
They ended up put Tua in after the break, and I think just the worst part, Brian Flores should have let Fitzpatrick know from the beginning, hey, the plan is to put him in after the bye. Like that was the plan from all along. I think that's the only mistake he really made there. But aside from that, I remember talking to you, and I might have mentioned it on the podcast. I don't remember, but I remember saying, how many times do we see 3 elite quarterbacks come out of one draft?
You said it on here.
And it already felt at that point in the season we saw 2. Joe Burrow had flashed big time. We felt like we knew what he was, and Herbert was just on a tear, and we really I feel like we already knew what that was and what that's going to be. And then Tua just felt like already, just from a pre-draft standpoint, we knew of those 3, the least physically talented as far as a right arm. We did know that. So
Tua's a lefty anyway.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. But yeah, so there was certainly some fear there. But what do the Dolphins do? Let's get into some of their biggest moves here. Obviously, the move on from Fitzmagic to a time. They added speed at wide receiver. That was the biggest thing. Their separation from wide receiver, and I'm going to pull up my stats here. Yeah, their separation. Their wide receivers were 32nd in separations from the wide receiver position. The wide receivers were getting no separation, and that had to be a huge culture shock because I don't know if you remember, but Tua was throwing to 4 first-round wide receivers. I mentioned that a whole lot pre-draft and got yelled at a lot for it. So I bring it up then. Yeah, he was throwing to 4 first-round wide receivers when it was all said and done. Now he's going to get to throw to one of them again. Jalen Waddle brought in a Will Fuller. Sorry, I'll fix it in post so you'll see Will Fuller, but it says Phil Fuller here, which I wish that was his name. That's a better name. But yeah, so I think that's a positive gain. I feel like that's going to add some speed. You had Jakeem Grant there, which was some speed, but he really wasn't able to create the kind of separation that you would like to see. Just a smaller guy, I think, got beat up off the line too much. So that was good. You still have a great defense. You gave Howard a little bit more money. I think it really wasn't much. It was like $4.5 million in incentives.
For what that was, a real quick tidbit, that was not worth the threatening to trade holdout type scenario that it was versus what you had to give him. I bet like the Dolphins were like, oh my God, what's the number? And then he was like, I just want this much. Like, oh.
Okay. I actually think it went a different way. I think Howard realized, we're not going to trade you. We got 2 years left on your contract. It's almost unheard of for somebody to hold out after getting a big contract after 2 years.
Like that's not enough.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, let's give you this for this year and then give you the re-raise next year. And I think that's kind of where they were looked at. And I think Howard also had to look at where we're at, financially. Next year we have a shit ton of money. We can give you money next year. We don't have a whole lot this year. So I think that was part of it. But certainly, as a Dolphins fan, I was.
I think he got upset because Byron came in and jumped him.
Yeah, Byron got paid more and has been average.
And Xavier is better.
Xavier's top 5 corner, I would say. I don't think you're naming 5 corners that are better than him at this point, especially with last year's performance. He's ridiculous. But yeah, I was pretty mad when he wanted the re-sign because I was like, man, he's getting paid like a top 10 corner, which he is, and he's probably not getting paid exactly what he deserves, but he's getting paid real fucking close, and he had just gotten paid from the team that drafted him and the team that gave him the contract, like
the chance in the first
really
place,
before he blew up. Like he was great before, but he blew up this past year, and the Dolphins invested in him before that. So I just felt like it was kind of shitty. And then when it was only $5 million in incentives, like, okay,
that's what I'm saying. That's kind of like, well, all right then.
Hell yeah. So that was interesting. Last thing, we're doing co-offensive coordinators this year. So hired George Godsey and Eric Studsville to be, is that Stud? I don't know how to pronounce it. as co-offensive coordinators. Not sure which one, is the alpha in that room. I don't know, but I guess two heads are better than one. Hopefully, if they're working together well, they can take advantage of the analytics. They can take advantage of every aspect of play calling to get the most out of your team week in and week out. I would say, Gailey, I didn't like the hire last year. They hired him. He out of retirement. He was the guy who got the most out of Fitzpatrick all those years ago in Buffalo, but just was a fairly old head
move, though.
Yeah, that was an old head move, and it just didn't really make any sense on why would you you're bringing him in for Fitzpatrick. Like you just drafted Tua, or you're about to draft Tua at that point. So it's like it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. This move does make sense. Hire from within, bring in guys that understand the culture and what you want to do here. I'm excited. I am excited to see what the Dolphins are, but I am cautiously nervous in how this is going to look. I really am.
I would be too. That's what I was saying overall, how we've trended down and saying that, man, the Dolphins are looking at a Super Bowl window soon. Not at it, but you can see it there. And I think it had to do with Deshaun Watson rumors. It had to do with maybe acquiring an immediate superstar quarterback, knowing the pieces that you have around that, getting a guy like a Deshaun or Aaron Rodgers, all the rumors that were going around, or Russell.
Well, and what are we talking about if Deshaun is on the roster right now? Even if he's if we're in the exact same spot and we don't know if he's starting and all that. How much
Buffalo
more optimism?
All they got and then some.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if he's starting, but even not, how much optimism do I have? How much optimism is there around this team as a whole? When you look at the roster, you look at the young players there. Man, we just have to wait for Deshaun Watson to be allowed to play, whatever that means. Oh, we're good then. I don't know. I think there'd be a whole different conversation here than the one we're talking about. But let's take a step back. Let's look at what they did do in free agency as a whole. Brought in Jacoby Brissett to be the backup. I think solid backup quarterback move. Like he's been around, he's played, and he originally was drafted by the Patriots, same organization that were pretty much the Patriots of the South at this point. We got all those guys. So,
for real.
I mean, really,
especially with the way that you build the team too.
Yeah, exactly, exact same way. Brought in an Adam Butler, a D tackle. Nothing major. Traded a Shaq Lawson. Traded him for Benardrick McKinney. Basically got more of a stand-up guy versus a Shaq Lawson who was a rotational defensive end and was just getting way overpaid. Kyle Van Noy, again, another guy who's a good player but getting overpaid for really what he produced. Ryan Fitzpatrick, unfortunate. Devin Godshaw, I really wanted to bring him back. He's a really good DT.
Was good.
Yeah, he's a good D tackle. He only played 5 games last year, but as a whole, this is, I think, his 7th round pick, 6th round pick, something like that, who really hit. And now he's with the Patriots, and that makes me sad. But yeah, that's what they did. Let's move over to. Do you have anywhere else you want to go with this on this?
No, I think it's good.
I feel like I'm talking too much. Draft. There's a lot to talk about with this draft. I mean, the amount of picks they had in the top 100, really all their picks. I mean, they had 5 picks in the top 100, and that was their draft, and that's a pretty good feeling to have. Grabbed a Jaylen Waddle at 6, which good move, I guess, right?
I know for you and me both, we were thinking Panay.
Yeah.
But looking back now, if you have Tua and you want Tua to be the guy, go get the teammate, go get the guy that he has camaraderie with, and hopefully he can just form this connection. And Waddle on his first opening punt return already looked electric. No,
Waddle is awesome, and I'm very excited. I think my whole thing, and just looking at this draft class as a whole, my whole thing was I thought Panay and a Rondell Moore in the second would be better than a Jaylen Waddle and a Liam Eckenberg overall. So
that's what the top end tackle versus the wide receiver depth.
Yeah,
I'm a flip flop.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But if Liam Eckenberg ends up being, we trade up for him. If he ends up being the guy, I have no issues with that. And he starts, and then we got a Jaylen Waddle. Exactly. But we got one of my favorite defensive player in the class. Like if you took away injuries, he was my number 1 defensive guy. Jaylen Phillips out of Miami. I mean, just an absolute amazing athlete. I think truly deserved to be in that kind of conversation for elite physical talent and physical ability to get to the quarterback. Has injury concerns though, so that's why he fell to 18. Javon Holland's going to be one of those do-it-all DBs, and Dolphins. I mean, I think you can expect this defense runs through its backfield. They want to trick you. They want to do a lot of different things, and they want the crux of doing all those different things to be. We have lockdown corners, and you don't, and your receivers aren't going to get open.
You don't
immediately
have the time to do do it versus
Exactly.
our advanced strategic blitz.
Exactly. So I think, we drafted Noah Igbenogany in the first last year, late first. We're drafting Javon Holland, essentially same range, 5-6 picks
the
later.
guys scream prototype to me.
Exactly.
Like
So
raw.
I think you're going to see that from the Dolphins every year. They're going to draft a DB at some point every year in the draft because that's just what they do, and they're going to want to have depth at that position. That's the crux of their defense. Talked about Ian Eckenberg, Hunter Long, not going to get a lot of production. Got hurt already, and he got hurt. So we're not going to get really any production out of him. But tight end is very important in that Patriots offense, and it also is for the Dolphins. So it makes sense they wanted to add another guy opposite a Gesicki, who's really just your move tight end type of guy. So I think a good draft overall. And really, the only other thing that's worth talking about with this draft is that trade that they made with the 49ers and what that means for the Dolphins' future as a whole.
Yeah, because you still have a lot of rewards to get to you're reaping from that going forward.
Yeah, we moved on. I mean, we basically have an extra first round pick in the 2023 draft. We only have one first round pick in the 2022 draft, and it's the 49ers, so we need them to suck this year. But we did also get a 2022 third as well. So we just got even more assets from a pick. And I mentioned it when we made the trade. There was two possibilities, right? We either felt good enough about the top three non-quarterbacks and we didn't really care which one we got, or there was a wild card guy that they wanted to make sure they could get and also gain extra value.
Yes.
It ended up being the second option.
That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah.
That you knew that the guy that you wanted was going to be there, so you wanted to get more assets that you could just to make the same transaction you would anyways.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a bad move. Honestly, the only thing that I was going to add about y'all's draft in general, and it would be just a way to get some money in your pocket, is Jaylen Phillips, Defensive Rookie of the Year on Bovada.
Yeah.
It pops to me. It really does.
Yeah.
You see it come a lot of times from that defensive line position.
It was T.J. Watt a couple years ago, right?
About production overall.
There's not, and this year, like it feels like the past couple of years, there's been that one guy at the top of the draft that everybody knew was going to be the guy.
Yeah.
This year, there's not. It's kind of a, it could be anybody, and I think I love that. I think Jaylen, he has a good chance. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I certainly would not count him out to be very, very productive. He's the only true defensive end that we have in Jaylen Phillips.
That's
right?
why I like it though, is because he's not. It doesn't pop off like Surtain or J.C. Horn, a lot of these, and it's hard for a corner to get it. It really is.
Oh, for sure.
But when you look at some of those other names that's up there, Micah Parsons is one of them. Those are the guys who are up there cementing like the plus 600, plus 700, blah, blah, blah odds. Jaylen Phillips is kind of down there like plus 1,800.
Yeah.
That's a good bang for your buck bet with a guy that I know, if he is healthy, what he can do on the field.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I love that. And just especially with what the Dolphins do, I mean, we're always like, we have that little amoeba defense in the front seven where you never know who's rushing, you never know who's coming, and it opens up opportunities for guys like Jaylen Phillips where you probably know he's rushing. Like, he's rushing the passer. He's your classic D-end rush, pass rusher type
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. And I think if y'all are to reap the rewards of sacks, they're going to go to Jaylen Phillips
a lot of times. It's certainly going to get a lot of half sacks. Like, I would expect that as well. All right. Anywhere else you want to go with the Dolphins? Can you talk me off a ledge with thinking that I'm too low at 8 and 9 when we just look at our
I thought you were going to hate on me for going 9 and 8.
No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm scared. I really am. I'm scared for. I think it's all about Tua. But like the other thing is, and I guess we didn't mention it, but I'll mention it now. The Tua was not good under pressure. 5.5 yards per attempt, 34% success rate, but also just in general, like the Dolphins were forced the most turnovers in the NFL. They were the first team since the 2012 Pats to get a takeaway in every single game of the season. That's very impressive, right? Defense ranked first in third down conversion.
Pats?
Yeah, that was really good. I know there's a lot of stats that went back to the 2012 Pats. Yeah, their defense ranked first in third down conversions over expected rate, right? Meaning stopping them. Their defense was good, but they did allow a lot of yards. They allowed a lot of rush yards and pass yards. It was just points that they were stopping, right? They were getting turnovers. They were exactly, and sometimes, like, especially turnovers, that regresses to the mean a whole lot. So I'm certainly nervous that the defense takes a step back just naturally, because I don't expect Xavier Howard to get 10, 12 interceptions like he did this past year. That's not a clip that you can expect every single year, although I'm very hopeful.
Well, and a lot of times when you see a cornerback blow it out of the water like you do, you'll see the stat. exactly tremendously go down. It happened to Sherm, happened to Jalen Ramsey, it happened to Revis Island for a while. There were times that Revis Island only had like 2 or 3 interceptions on the year because guys just knew better.
Just shut him down,
Yeah, you just don't even fuck with it.
Yeah, we good. We go over here.
Can't get a stat if you don't even throw that way.
Exactly. Yeah, so, I mean, I think all those statements are fair. I think overall, yeah, I am nervous. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Obviously, I'm projecting us to have a losing season, which hurts me, but I always have to keep in mind this is second year of rebuild mode. We're not supposed to be a finished product.
And that's what I would tell yourself. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think y'all are competing for a Super Bowl right now.
No. Well,
listen. No,
we're not. We're not.
Y'all could be a low key dark horse type.
I think there is a position. There's a world where the Dolphins surprise everybody, and they're an elite football team.
Yes, no,
I think
sure.
There's a talent on that roster.
Y'all are a playoff team, and in saying that, if you're a playoff team, therefore you can be a Super Bowl team because that means you're only a few good games away from making it there.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when it comes to the big dogs of the AFC, I wouldn't even look at your whole season as that. Your main focal point of this season is to figure out what you have in Tua, to see if you can see the flash. I don't even care if it happens as consistently as it should. We just got to see that game. You got to see that moment. You got to see that play. Every rookie has one. Every single player early on has one that it's like, okay, that's what we're going to cling to, though, because we know we can get that.
Yeah.
We need to see it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I think that's a good jumping off point for the Jets. Let's talk about the Jets. Jets. This is going to hurt my heart a little bit.
I shit on Joe Namath. They're all gone.
Oh, they're gone. This is going to hurt my heart because we're going to be very complimentary of their first-round pick. Really, I like their draft as a whole. They swung for the fences a little bit and I think hit. I'll let you give me your raw reactions while I put everything up.
I think the Jets... I don't know. It's hard to say because I know when you put up the screen about the record, it's not going to indicate the things that I say. But keep in mind, to people listening right now, I am holding the value of the future in the front of my mind talking about the Jets right now. Not as much as I am this exact season alone. I think the Jets have made a lot of slam dunk moves, though. Mm-hmm. I think they have paid the right positions. I think that they had to overspend in some areas, but in those areas that you need to overspend, it's things that are... you just have to rely on as a team. You have to get a good pass rush. Mm-hmm. I think you have to have at least one elite pass rusher. Personally, I believe that Carl Lawson can be that. I think that he can be the cornerstone for them. They have a C.J. Mosley who, in spite of him being hurt and then sitting out and whatnot, he is a good... beyond good. He is an elite linebacker who can really be the face of that defense and keep those young guys together and going and moving forward. Their offensive line, I think that they have had some of the best picks at that position. And a Mekhi Becton, who was a prototype raw project, looks like now he's more than just a starter. It looks like he can be the cornerstone for that offensive line going forward. Elijah Vera Tucker, we got to see where that goes. But all in all, that he was regarded as the best guard in the class. They're able to bring him in. They revamped this wide receiver core while also still having a very talented, underrated, keep in mind, Jamison Crowder. Very underrated, who's been being the only guy for a long time and still putting up respectable numbers. You now have a Corey Davis, and you now have an Elijah Moore who, trust me, I'm reaching on him early. I know you'll reach on him early. I know all of us will out there in the fantasy community because you should.
The quad injury scares me.
It does scare me, but the thing that I can find solace in is knowing how often the other guys, colleagues in the league, how highly they talk of him about him.
Well, not only that, and it's like I said when he got drafted. Well, he's Debo Sanders or Samuel. Debo Samuel. Excuse me. He's that type of guy, and he's going into that offense. I mean, it's the LaFleur Shanahan style offense. Not going to be exactly, but there's certainly going to be connections to be made. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Let's just going. You kind of went big picture. I'm going to dive into what they did this year.
Well, and I left you talking about your boy.
Yeah,
too.
Of course. So they did move on from Adam Gase, and can we just take a second to respect how bad Adam Gase was? In his 5 years as a head coach, his teams were outscored by 544 points, trailed after the first quarter by 210 total points. 35 of his 48 losses were by double digits. 27 of his 32 wins were by one score. Wow.
He's bad.
Wow. I mean, you talk about a guy who he got 5 years because he coached Peyton Manning for one.
Yeah, that's literally what it was. He was riding off of Peyton Manning's endorsement and coattails.
And it was sad, and look, there were good times with the Miami Dolphins. There were a lot of those one score wins came from the Miami Dolphins. Like there was one good year where with Tannehill it looked like it could be something. But yeah, not only that's on the field, and then you talk about how he couldn't handle a locker room. He certainly couldn't handle the media. That I think was the dumbest part of the entire hire for the Jets, was looking at a guy who didn't handle the media particularly well in Miami, didn't handle the locker room particularly well in Miami, and then put him in front of the biggest media in the NFL.
That was the thing, is like he didn't even have a bright spot of his coaching other than, so what was supposed to be the X's and O's. I eventually outgrew his scheme and the way that he wanted to run everything. It just didn't line up for me in my head.
Yeah.
And to think that he didn't have the good player relations, he didn't have the good media relations, it was just like, this thing is a ticking time bomb that's going to set the Jets back overall a lot. And it did.
No, I couldn't.
I think Robert Saleh, I've already seen Robert Saleh getting out there with his own team running bleachers. I think that's a good look. I think that's how you earn the respect of your players. I don't know it. I can't think of it from an NFL lens. I can only look at it from a college and high school lens, because that was the stuff that I would do. But knowing if I were to have my coach out there enduring the same type of stuff that I had to do, I would respect the man for that.
Yeah, no, I
know it's a different
agree.
mentality when you get paid millions.
Certainly agree, and I don't know if it is. Like, does it ever really change? I don't have, I don't know. Maybe it does, but yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I couldn't agree more. Saleh does seem like, from first impressions at least, like he's got the stuff, and I'm certainly very excited about it. Yeah, overall, like you mentioned, overpaying certain positions. Wide receiver, I would say, is one of those. They're spending the third most of the wide receiver position of any team in the NFL.
That's a lot.
And that's a lot for what they have. You look at, not only just, that's a lot.
I don't think they have a top 30 wide receiver in the league. Yeah,
they got Corey Davis, which is a great number 2. They have, they obviously have Jamison Crowder, who's a great slot / number 2. They draft Elijah Moore, who I would have said was going to be a great slot / number 2. Like, I don't feel like you have a number 1.
Let's not
which
throw
is
away
okay.
Denzel Mims yet.
No, Denzel Mims
really like
has
Denzel
the potential
Mims
to be that guy. The Denzel Mims at least has the potential to be your true number 1 big body type of guy, the receiver, who can do it all, because he does have speed and athleticism too, but he's a bigger body, I guess is what I would say. Yeah, and well, I guess Corey Davis does too, but Corey Davis just been a number 2 his entire career.
A lot of this production with that, though, is coming off of this last year.
Yeah,
he just showed up at the right season.
Yeah, I feel that's kind of what it feels like. I do agree with that. So I'm in the wrong one. So moving on here, looking
you got to talk about Wilson, bro. It's time.
Yeah, I was actually, that's where I was leaning into it. Zack Wilson, man. Look, I will say, I did a live stream yesterday just talking about the news and notes around the NFL, and then I also mentioned I want to talk about the first round of the playoffs, or the preseason, excuse me, and looked at all the quarterbacks, watched every snap from all of the rookie quarterbacks, and the guy who I felt ball popped out of his hands better than anybody else was Zack Wilson. I think he's I think he's a superstar. I really do. I felt really good about it pre-draft. I thought it was, I said it from the beginning. It was a huge drop off in my head from Zack Wilson to everybody else in that draft. I really believed that, and I stand by it. And I think year one, we're going to see that. I really do. I think you're going to see Justin Fields flash a lot, and I think he'll be really good. Yeah, well, you hung with Fields in that conversation. I didn't, and I think we're going to see him flash, but I think we're going to see him struggle. I think we're going to see Lance flash when he gets on the field, but I think we'll see him struggle too. Zack Wilson is the guy. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the year we're talking. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I was saying it wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the year we're talking about Zack Wilson being the far and the way best rookie quarterback from year one. And yeah, I know Lawrence is playing too, but I do think the Jets also have a little bit better infrastructure right now. Just looking at, I would honestly say better offensive line, even though they're not paying this offensive line nearly as much. I would say weapons really good. Yeah, I certainly an argument to be made one way or the other, but I think Zack Wilson's in a really good spot, and I'm just really excited about him. I really am.
Can you guess off the top of your head how Bovada has it listed on Offensive Rookie of the Year, though? Quarterbacks only.
Oh, I'm sure Trevor Lawrence is far and away the favorite.
He is.
Yeah.
But who would be second?
I guess it's not Zack Wilson based on the way you're wording this, but I
guess based off of that, it's the guy who isn't even a starter yet. It's Justin Fields.
Well, he's going to start, right? He's going to start. I'm going to look it up right now.
Zack Wilson is at plus 800.
Yeah,
that's wild to me to have Fields in second place off of that. I'm a big believer in Fields. I want my name attached to him. That's why I stayed next to him throughout this entire process. But when it came to that as a whole, yeah, I mean, to have a guy like Fields above a Zack Wilson, who was a number 2 pick and whatnot, it just makes me wonder kind of what's trending down, or which it is, we are way overreacting to a week 1 preseason where we saw Fields come in there and run the offense and manage the offense.
Against my Dolphins, 2s and 3s, by
Yes,
the way. And honestly, like really more 3s and 4s. Like the 2s, like it was not like he was playing against top end talent, which I'm not trying to take anything away from.
There we go. I was right on the odds.
Yeah, you were
I
dead
said
on.
550 and 800. It's 500 and 850.
Yeah, that's crazy. Trevor Lawrence is at plus. Wow, that's wild.
Trey Lance is ahead of Zack Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's wrong. I really do. Najee Harris,
I think Zack Wilson is a good bet right there.
Yeah, Zack Wilson's a great bet right there. I would have put him right next to Trevor Lawrence. I really would have.
Because he's already the starter. As of now, Jimmy G and Trey Lance are fighting.
They're not
for
fucking around.
QB1.
And also
Justin Fields, what?
Also, I will say that, and I don't give this much credence, but there were 2 quarterbacks true rookie quarterbacks that went out and didn't have any scripted plays in the preseason. You know what I mean by scripted play?
Yeah.
You can tell when if there's any kind of play that like series that looks really, really smooth and doesn't look super vanilla, it's probably a scripted play for your rookie.
Trying to build confidence.
You really only do it for rookies, right? Because you're trying to get those big plays, and people don't talk about it a lot. But like that Trey Lance 80-yard touchdown, you never see that in the preseason. You would never see it. Now, look, he still made a great throw. Like, you shouldn't take anything away from what Trey Lance did. Like, he's going to be in that scheme. He's going to get those type of plays.
Justin Fields, Jesse James, delayed tight end drag.
Exactly.
Come on, I mean,
you don't get those. Yeah, you don't see that in preseason, right?
You save that for week 8.
Zack Wilson and Mac Jones were the only 2 quarterbacks that didn't see any of it. They just ran their vanilla offense. They went out there, did the thing. And I think part of that has to be the confidence in the coaching staff, at least not so much for Mac Jones because he's on the Patriots and Patriots just don't do that ever. But for Zack Wilson, I would think, rookie coaching staff would not have ever surprised me at all if they would have done something like that. And they didn't, because I think they've seen enough. And it's been rave reviews out of camp. Everything's been super positive, which it is this time of year. I get it. I'm super excited for him. I think it's going to be special. I am so sad as a Dolphins fan that I have to play Zack Wilson and Josh Allen twice in a year. I think it might be worse than just playing Tom Brady twice, or having to play 4 great quarterbacks instead of 2.
It would pain me to know that you have, and I guess I am getting a little dosage because of how much I like Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And knowing that the Bears have that coming at me for the next however long it is.
Yeah, like 5 years.
Assuming that it is as good as what it could be. But yeah, for you to have to look at a Josh Allen.
Yeah, Josh Allen we know about.
Zack Wilson,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's all kind of up in the air, but it is.
Yeah, it's special. And we're talking about Zack Wilson. Let's talk about the rest of their draft class, because that's certainly important to talk about. We mentioned Elijah Vera Tucker traded up to go get him. I think the Vikings are probably regretting that move right now, because their tackle they ended up getting in that trade is still struggling, and that's not looking good. But they went up and got a guard. They needed a guard. They got the top guard in the class, or at least in their eyes. Then in the second round, top of the second round, Elijah Moore, who I was so high on. He was one of the ultimate surprises for me, because I really hadn't heard a lot about him when I started watching him, and boy did he blow me away. I think he's a superstar, and like you mentioned, we're getting so much positive reinforcement of Elijah Moore. I think the Elijah Moore Zack Wilson combination is going to be dangerous for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Michael Carter, I think, could be a starter this year. I really do. I'm not high on Michael P. Ryan. Michael Carter does seem like he would fit that offense. Why are you worried about it?
So it's a week 1 preseason overreaction, as we all have, but I think he got like 9 carries on 8 yards.
Okay. What was the?
It was, and he was the second running back to go into the game too.
Okay.
And that was and he was the second running back to go into the game without Tevin Coleman even dressing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of worrisome, I guess, in a way, to see that.
I think this time of year, guys like that, you're going to have to earn it.
And of course, he has to earn it. He's got to get his stripes. He's got to get battle ready.
He's a guy you draft in like the 8th or 9th round.
Exactly.
Hoping. He's not a guy you get in the 4th.
I've seen so many people saying 8th or 9th with the chance for the RB1 upside, so let's pull him in the 5th, because I know how valuable running backs are.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I think there's a reason why it's such a sexy pick in the 8th or the 9th, because of what you could get. You could get a guy that is worth that 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah.
But taking him in the 4th or 5th round, you're already cementing what his value should be, and I can only see, I guess, underwhelming performance from there. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I get that a whole lot. Beyond that, I don't have a whole lot to say about the rest of their draft class. Good draft class overall. I think they got a lot of pieces here. I don't have anything. Do you want to mention anybody else on this? I know you're going to mention your Auburn safety.
No, Jamie Sherwood was a guy that I didn't think would get drafted.
Yeah, and well, Hassan, I can't spell. I can't pronounce his last name. Florida State safety is a guy I didn't even know about. So
yeah, I knew about Jamie Sherwood, and he kind of just had an underwhelming last season. I didn't think he was going to get drafted. He did based off his physical traits, which, I mean, go figure. That's what got Ibn the nod in the first round in the first place. We have a lot of physical fast guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look from their fifth round at 146 to their sixth round at 200 on the dot. All DBs. I think that's the biggest fear I have for this team. It speaks to the biggest fear. Their corner. There's no blue chip player on that cornerback room. There's really no blue chip player at that safety room other than Marcus May. I'm nervous. I'm very, very worried about these DBs. I'm very, very worried about their pass defense, and with the way they like to play defense, it might not matter. But you really don't also see the front seven as a unit that like just is going to dominate and help out these DBs that much. This is still very much a work in progress team that if they're going to win games, they're probably going to have to put up 30 points, right? Yeah, like I think that's where we're at. Their defense does not seem like a unit that is ready to really take that next step yet. But hey, it's a process. It's a rebuild mode. You're in year one. Feels like their offense is good, and now it's just add value to that defense for the next 2 years until it gets to the point where you like it. Yeah, fair enough. Quinn Williams, though, after I shit on it, Quinn Williams is ranked fourth in pass rush win rate and first in run stop win rate. He crushed it this past year. He really did. He absolutely crushed it. A guy who had a very, very slow rookie season. Another example of, hey, let's not just completely write these rookies off after 1 year. Even if they were drafted in the top 5 and they're supposed to be superstars, give them a year. Give them time to adjust to the game, especially if you're on a bad team. Like, come on, take some time. I certainly think that's a fair point. Where else do we need to go with this? I'm sure we have something else to say here about the Jets. I don't have anything. Do you have anything?
I'm good on the Jets.
You're good on the Jets? All right. Okay. Let's move on to the Patriots. Last team. Give me your raw reactions on the New England Patriots.
So I was a little too far down looking at this team going into the predictions early on, and I want to be high on them because I want to assume that Cam Newton stepped into a spot last year very, very late into the year in one of the most complicated offenses that you can say that it is. I think he got a very just unfair shake looking at all of it. And then to see his name kind of get drugged like he did, yes, there were times where he tried to do too much. Yes, there were times where it looked like the arm was struggling. Yes, there was a lot of ways that I doubted Cam Newton in its entirety. But I just think that going forward, they spent the most money, which was the exact opposite of what the Patriots ever do. So Bill Belichick is putting a lot of eggs in the basket this year. And I don't know what it is, but I feel like he's trying to prep a little mini run here to get better product on the field. And I would say based off of what they had last year was a bottom 25 roster. Dare I say it could be worse than that when you look at name base alone. It was bad. I can't even tell you all the opt-outs that they had on defense.
I really believe this, and you can tell me I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I really believe if you compare the roster apples to apples to the Jets and the Jags roster last year, you're gonna take away the coach, take away the logo, all of that, compare roster to roster. I feel like you're gonna have a tough time telling me which roster is better. I think it was that bad when you go from receiver core, wide receiver, offensive line, quarterback. You don't know what you have in Cam Newton. Go to the defense, take away Stephon Gilmore, and the front seven was decimated. You had, really Chase Winovich was your biggest producer on defense. It was bad.
And in the grand scheme of things, seriously, what is that?
Yeah, of course.
That's why I'm saying it goes to show how good Bill Belichick is for the product that they put on the field last year. People were just like, oh, Cam Newton's supposed to just will these guys to victory.
Yeah.
Where? I shit on that wide receiver room so many times because those guys are guys that get cut in preseason on other teams.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns all year from the wide receiver core. Wide receiver core wasn't good.
God.
Yeah, bad. It's absolutely awful. And then, not to mention, 8 opt-outs. You found out, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the season, you had 8 opt-outs. I believe 5 of them were supposed to be starters. Actually, it might have been more. You had a free agency where you couldn't spend a lot of money. You were still paying for the Tom Brady.
It was a lame duck year.
It was a lame duck year. I would argue, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I thought I was going to be bold. 7 wins was absolutely miraculous, and the fact that the fact that Bill Belichick was not at least in the top 2 of Coach of the Year conversation is ridiculous because he willed his team to a competitive product on the field. week in and week out. He had multiple games where it was lost to a fumble by Cam Newton in the final game.
2 games Cam did that. That's a 9-win year.
9-win year with an absolutely awful roster. And look, I get it. Every Brady lover who's said for the past 10 years it's Brady, not Belichick. They clapped their hands and said, okay, that proves it. And maybe it does, because Brady is Brady and he's awesome. But I think it's fair to say they both helped each other all those years.
Yeah.
And Belichick is no slouch by any means. He was not carried by Tom Brady. I will certainly say that. Let's talk about what they spent over the last, just to put in perspective of how they've spent in free agency versus what they did in the 2021 free agency. In the past 10 years of free agency, they've spent a little under $360 million.
It's in 10 years.
In 2 days, the first 2 days of free agency, they spent $227.5 million.
Yeah.
Think about that.
They flipped the absolute script. 10 years to 2 days.
Think about how fucking close those numbers are. You're a little over $130 million difference between 2 days and 10 years. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Brought back some big guys, big names. You revamped your defensive line depth. You revamped your tight end core, which is obviously kind of the crux of what Bill Belichick has done for years. I mean, going back to 2000, 2001, there's always been at least somebody at a tight end position that they've attacked. Well, in 2020, what did they do? They drafted 2 tight ends in the 3rd round. Didn't work out the way I think that he hoped. What do you do this year? He signed 2 tight ends in the first day of the tampering period. Yep. And got Jonnu Smith, got Hunter Henry, and where are they doing right now? They're both hurt right now.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
It sucks.
Bill Belichick can't catch a break right now, man. It's crazy.
And honestly, it goes back to Cam Newton right there, too, who I think before we get into all this other stuff, because one of the biggest things that they did was the Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And, there's a battle going on from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Look, and right now, I think Mac Jones is trending.
You couldn't show me a quarterback that looked more poised week 1 of the preseason. Looked like he'd been there.
Mac Jones looked crazy.
I mean, it's crazy because of how dorky he seems. Like, I just get that sense that he's a dorky guy.
He seems dorky.
But I mean, he has the poise and the leadership that, from everything I've heard, they've never seen a rookie quarterback come in and grasp the offense as well and take over the leadership role the way he has. And, part of that is the fact you don't have Tom Brady in front of you. So, like, a lot of these beat writers, they've been there, they probably haven't been there for 20 years. Like, I mean, they've only ever seen Tom Brady, and they only ever seen rookies come in under Tom Brady. So, like, take that for what it is. But certainly a fair point to bring up. I do want to just quickly go back to free agency here and talk about, all the guys that they got, because I mentioned a handful of them, but I want to put this graphic up here with Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. What do you think about those two later guys that they didn't spend as much on?
No, I mean, being able to get the budget ballers in there like that. Nelson Aguilar did have...
He was a little bit overpaid. $22 million
he's overpaid,
for 2 years.
But for what he was supposed to be in Philly, he was never. What he was supposed to do in Las Vegas, which was nothing, was something.
Yeah.
And listen, I think he's automatically an upgrade from anyone they had on the roster.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's
Kendrick Bourne might be
sad
too.
part. That's what I'm saying. That's the sad part, because those names are still borderline wide receiver 2-3-ish on most other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's certainly a step in the right direction. Really revamped that defensive line with not only that, but the draft in the 2nd round, which we'll talk about in just a second.
I'm digging Judon. I'm digging Van Noy. I'm digging Godshaw.
Yeah.
Those moves are really what helps a Bill Belichick defense help this
be multiple
offense.
do a lot of different things.
Yes.
I mentioned it already with the Dolphins. That's what they like to do. They like to do a lot of different things on the defensive line. They're not maybe as cute as the Dolphins are sometimes with what they're trying to do, but they do a lot of different things, and they want guys that can perform in all of those realms, I guess I would say. But let's move on to their draft, because I mean, we already talked about Mac Jones and what's going on there. We'll kind of circle back to that just for a second, because you were talking about how it's a battle. It's not a battle week 1. Do we agree on that? I don't think it's a battle week 1.
I don't want it to be a battle week 1, but some of the things that I'm hearing, like they asked Cam about the battle, and Cam's shown nothing but class and respect. Like,
yeah, well, that's his job. He's a veteran
he's done good with that by saying that Mac's just a perfectionist, and he's been, compliment him, saying that he's doing really good going forward. But I mean, Cam's going to take the first snap. I think it's Cam's job to lose right now, because I also think that you need to protect Mac Jones going forward. And if you were to put Mac Jones, if you were to put anyone out there with the product that they had last year, you can't expect good things.
Yeah.
So,
and Cam Newton, I do think, deserves a shot. I think, obviously long term, Mac Jones fits the style that they want to do long term. I think if he, the biggest thing about him coming out was he was a processor. And where do you go? You go to the most complicated defense, the most complicated offense, and process
literally
quickly.
Go to the machine.
Yeah,
of
quick
his
release,
offenses.
his whole thing, quick release, ability to make decisions very quick. He's good in the pocket, all those things, but he's obviously not mobile at all. And limited experience too, I think, is a fair point to bring up. Do you want to sit him when obviously won the national championship last year, that was awesome, but he's played one more game than Trey Lance. That doesn't get talked about a lot, but he hasn't played much more than Trey Lance did in college, and Trey Lance got dinged left and right for inexperience.
Well, Mac got that full season in there with Bama though. I mean, he did. I would say Mac's more experienced when it comes to that overall.
He is, and it's a higher level of competition.
It was. I mean, having to step in and fill the shoes at Bama, but I remember whenever Tua got hurt and Mac stepped in, it was like, oh, it's just the backup.
Just the backup. Nobody thought he was anything.
And then
honestly, I remember the Tua year when I got shit from everybody because I wasn't as high on Tua as everybody else was, and another one of my arguments was like, look, Mac Jones did the same thing. Mac Jones looked good in that role. He didn't look better.
And Mac
he didn't
Jones
look better than Tua.
Since Jalen Hurts.
Exactly. And then come to find out, oh well, Mac Jones is a first round quarterback too. Yeah, I didn't know that. But I
think it's pretty much the problem is you can just look at Bama and be like, I think they're
first round position everywhere. Yeah. So they get the number 1 quarterback or number 2 quarterback.
That's just what they do.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. But Christian Barmore, a guy who went exactly where I thought he should go. I got a lot of. This is one of those guys that it feels good because
some people were very bullish on him.
Some people were very
top
bullish.
15 pick.
Some people shit on me on my YouTube channel when I said that Christian Barmore was a late first, early second type of guy. Where did he go? 38 overall. And I said top 40. I specifically said I think he's top 40. I don't think he's a for sure first round guy. And I couldn't have hit the nail on the head any better with that. It made me feel good, especially when I was getting shit on in the comments. Yeah. But yeah, explosive, quick, physical, a lot of things. Patriots. Again, you talk about what they don't normally do. They don't normally trade up in drafts. They trade down all day long. They don't normally trade up, and when they do trade up, they don't normally give up 2 fourth-round picks to move up 8 spots in the second round. Like that was certainly surprising. Just looking at the trade breakdown. Again, try not to talk about trade breakdowns too much at this point in the season, but this is a guy they really liked and really, really wanted. Obviously, to go up and spend that much assets to go get him.
Well, they're betting on the physical raw talent, and that's where if you're going to go to a guy like Bill Belichick, if he recognizes that you're physical and raw, but he knows that he can refine. Yeah, he is the guy who can do that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Anywhere else you want to go with this? Just looking at this overall with their
draft.
roster?
The draft didn't kill me overall. I would look at a guy like Ramondre Stevenson and saw the type of game that he had. He killed it. He did it against the backups as he should, but. Listen, you can't knock a guy for doing what he should do out there anyways. Yeah. That means that I think that he has a role that can be carved out for him in this
I think it's LeGarrette Blount.
At some point.
I compared him to LeGarrette Blount in my draft profile on him. He gets drafted by the same team that made LeGarrette Blount what he was. I think that's what he's going to be. I think he's going to be a goal line monster. I think he might be even a little bit quicker, maybe not coming out, but certainly from the back end. Ramondre Stevenson showed a lot that he was able to pull off that big run because I don't really knew that I knew he was quite that fast.
It was athletic.
It showed some athleticism. Problem is, from a fantasy standpoint, just the Patriots are never consistent with the running backs.
I'm glad you said that because I was about to ask you buy or sell on Damian Harris.
Yeah, Harris, I'm selling on all of them, man. Yeah, no, I'm not drafting in the 6th. I'm not drafting a Patriots running back in the top 10. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I can't.
There's no value. There's no consistency.
Go back 3 seasons and Rex Burkhead was the leader on the Patriots when it comes to
that. I feel about them the same way I feel about the 49ers. Don't get the first rounder, get the third rounder, or excuse me, the third stringer, because he's gonna have a game.
Don't take Raheem Mostert, take JaMychal Hasty, or take Trey Sermon late.
Or get Ramondre Stevenson in the 12th, whatever he's at. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's the move. So that's good. We're good there. Did we go through everything?
Yeah.
Did we get through it? I have a couple stats I want to throw out there.
Did you put up our overall prediction on the Patriots and stuff?
Let's put it. I think it's going to be on there. I don't know if we specifically talked about it. If I'm on Bovada, I'm probably
9-8 too. Yeah.
Yeah, you're 9-8. If I'm on
10-7.
Yeah, if I'm on there, I'm probably taking the over, but I'm probably not betting on that.
I wouldn't be able to
9. 9's a good line, I feel like.
Do you feel more confident looking at this year alone at a Cam Newton-led Patriots or a Mac Jones-led Patriots?
Oh, Cam Newton. I feel like, For year one, Mac Jones, looks, it's interesting. I'd like to see him. And again, I'm big on seeing these guys that didn't play a lot in college get some reps early on, but it does feel like the two guys that got the least amount of reps in college go to teams that feel like they're kind of set and want them to be backups first, and Trey Lance with the 49ers probably going to be backup first, and Mac Jones is going to be backup first. Yeah, I do. The thing that bugs me is, okay, are we gonna do Mac Jones watch when Cam Newton inevitably fumbles in Game 6?
That's one of the bigger things, because you know the type of plays that Cam does have and what he's capable of, but then you also know the burden that he bears whenever the mess ups happen, and where is that going to happen? The week three time where Cam Newton throws for 138 yards.
Yeah,
because it just happens. It happened a lot last year. There was also week 3 threw for 400 against Seattle. There was good. There was really, really bad, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
When that really, really bad hits.
And it's not helped by the fact that they, in the 3 of their first 4 games, they do play top 6 defenses. In the Dolphins, Saints, and Bucks. Top 6 pass defenses especially. Right? So like the pass defense is not going to be good. I'm going to go bet on the Bovada under for Cam Newton passing yards. Exactly, man. Yeah, I agree, especially early on. Yeah, because that's not going to be pretty.
Because they'll probably give him a little leniency more there than they would.
Man, yeah, you're right. Go to the passing yards there, because it's like you have the opportunity that Cam Newton. I mean, no offense to Cam Newton or anybody else, you never root for this, but he is fairly injury prone at this point in his career. Looks like a bad start of the season, and Mac Jones is going to be breathing down his neck. Those are 3 good reasons to take the under on passing yards. I absolutely agree with that, man. That's all I have. I don't have anywhere else. Actually, I did want to throw out a couple stats, but I might be too late. There's nothing really. There's nothing I really need to throw out there. I think I got everything. Used dime on 47% of their defensive snaps. Other than that, nothing major there. Nothing breaking the bank. I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really, really helps us out, and we do appreciate it very, very much. Gearing up for football season, man. We are so excited. Let us know, like, what's the content that you're most excited for, right? Prop bets is something that I'm really into. How much fantasy content do you really want from us? Do you care? Like we're here to please. We love talking football, but guys, we could talk for 3 hours about just about any subject, it feels like. So let us know what you want and what you're thinking. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.
7.